As we celebrate our Black history, we must pay homage to the ones who shared their soul with us through their artistic talent, giving our world not only beauty, but depth with their words, compositions, coloring techniques, sketching, and the like to express their craft. Our culture is so rich with talent. And on this day, we like to highlight local artists making Black history every day.
Awesome. Okay, so I have the pleasure of moderating this panel, and this panel is a salute to terraforming. And I said, Darlena, what? And it makes total sense now after she has explained it to me, in that you are changing, and Darlena, you can jump in here if you need to, but you are, through art, you are changing the world, essentially. And terraforming, as you know, you're making a place that's uninhabitable or barely habitable, something that's better and more habitable. So that's where the title for this panel came from. And we have two artists with us, and I will introduce them. I have some questions that I have prepared. I expect the folks in the audience will have questions as well. I'm not sure at the moment how to logistically handle that. I am not a Zoom guru, but I think that people could, at their discretion, unmute themselves and ask their questions, because this is mainly going to be a conversation with JR and Justen about their arts, but I think it would be great to have your questions as well. Okay.
How about
with that,
how about maybe they could put their hand up, or they could put their question in the chat? One of those, is that okay?
Yeah. So I'm not seeing visually, since I said, hey, let's do speaker view. So I'm seeing you big screen right now.
Okay.
So I won't see it if it's a physical hand, but if there's a hand that's up within the chat itself, you know,
I can help you with that. We can help you with
awesome.
that.
Yeah, I can
awesome.
tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just see how this goes.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to introduce folks. So first off, we have JR Poole. JR is from Detroit, but is now in Pittsburgh. I've seen some of his art, and I have a feeling he may be a Bucks fan and also a Steelers fan. So I don't know what happened to the Lions or the Tigers, but that's something else we can talk about another time. Originally, and we'll get into this a little bit in a bit, JR, you were looking to become an architect, and there was a circuitous route, I guess, and plus there's a lot. I mean, I'm really curious to hear you tell the story rather than trying to have me recount it. You had some posters in Detroit. You colorize historical photos. I actually have 3 items here that you have created. I'm not highlighted, so anyway, we'll get to them later. And you are the creator and originator of the Black Heroes movement. So welcome, JR.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And with us also, we have Justen Perry. Justen is from North Carolina, born and raised. I don't know how far Roxborough is from Raleigh, but he's in Raleigh now. I think you're zooming in from there, Justen. And
yes,
he is also known as, or his work is known as, Just Genius Art.
Thank you. Thank you.
He does pencil sketches, acrylic paintings, watercolors, and digital art. Please welcome Justen Perry.
Hey, everybody. Peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So I should also be checking the chat as things happen. Okay, good. Will these be watchable later? That's a good question. I think so. Okay. So I'm going to start off with a couple of softballs, I think. So JR, talking to you about Detroit and Pittsburgh, can you tell us about your journey between those two places and take us through how you I'm trying to figure out how, like, I read your bio. I was like, no, I can't sum that up. So tell us about your journey, about where you are now, and like the ups and downs from Detroit to Pittsburgh, if you would, please.
I went to what we call in Detroit a choice high school, and there was only 3 in the city, and it was for the smart, well-to-do kids. How I got in there is my grandfather knew the principal, so that was it. So I went to a good high school, and they had majors there. So my major was architecture. My grandmother thought that I'd be an architect or a cartoonist, which has nothing to do with the other. So I went, and my senior year, I didn't want to do it anymore because there was lots of math involved. So I wanted to do graphic design and did that instead. So yeah, I'm sorry. I was hearing some sounds in my ear. I went to, where did I go? Savannah College of Art and Design for a tour. I thought I was going to do photography for a minute, and that didn't work itself out. So I did end up going to school for graphic design, and then to Pittsburgh to finish out my degree. Just wanted to get away from home. I figured if I was driving, I didn't want to drive too far. Pittsburgh is real nice. So when I went there, I was like, all right, I'll stay here. I am not a Steelers fan because I don't watch football. As Ryan might have mentioned, I do watch tennis. So I don't watch football, baseball, or basketball. That's it. Oh, is there something else? I could keep going forever.
Could you, I just want to ask you about Zipcar.
Why?
Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to that later.
Zipcar it's a car sharing program, and
Yeah.
it's when I sold it, I was like one of those street selling people. I actually enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed the conversations you had, trying to change people's mind into this new way of transportation. I was all for it because I didn't have a car and I walked to work. So if I needed to go somewhere, and the cars are parked in the neighborhood. So you just walk to the car, scan your card and get in it and go. I was all for it. Like your little shuttle pod waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I thought from your bio there was some sort of artistic stop off that was fueled by Zipcar.
Not really, but when you want to be a working designer, a working artist, you try to find a way to design something at each job you go to. And I was designing some flyers for our local office, which had to be approved from corporate. So I kind of felt like that was a stepping stone to corporate design, which then led into the job that I've had now for 11 years, working at the sign company in Pittsburgh.
Awesome. All right. Justen.
Yes.
So I left out a lot, I'm sure. So can you give us a little bit about your journey and how you have come to be where you are with your art?
Yes. Thank you. My journey consisted of not seeing representation. Roxborough is about an hour from Raleigh. And since the 80s until the 90s, we've developed from an agricultural community, literally people growing up pulling tobacco, to working and being able to do solar panels and get jobs at Duke University, which would involve STEM and maybe light work, and you can go to a certification program, and then that'll lead into school, and then that'll lead into more schooling for you to get better jobs, better certificates.
Yes,
so
yes.
I always really loved how there were pathways for us to work 9 to 5, but there was nothing for an entrepreneur to strike out, and especially as an artist. My brother started off as a MC, as a rapper, and that was something that he championed in our family, so much so that it really disturbed everyone, because it was like, you can't commit to art full time. You're going to be broke. You're going to be living with us. We can't have that. Go ahead and get you a job here. Go ahead and get you a job there. And I would hear that, and I would kind of agree, because I'm like, you're messing up, man. What are you doing? Like, you're so smart, and you're going to put it in art? That's crazy. And when I started to get into art, it was because of my brother and because of my family and so many other folks. But when I advanced in it, I got to a plateau that I just really couldn't see it, especially in Roxborough. And so it took me traveling, and took me going into new places, like up the East Coast, family in New Jersey, family in New York, even going overseas to see like, oh, wow, there are people that can actually work full time in art, make a difference in their community with art, and also have people see them as something valuable. You know, it's not a secret, or it's not something that should be hid away. Like, oh, you know, he didn't really have a job. He just sells pictures. You know, like, no, he is an artist. And when I started to put that on myself and manifest that energy, I am an artist. I am a spoken word poet. I am a photographer. Then all of those elements seem to attract towards me. And I realized that was something that I wanted all the time. And why do I have to be this other person 9 to 5 and then afterwards become an artist? I'm always an artist. So it for me, especially the last, I would say 2 years, believe it or not, COVID has not, I wouldn't say helped, because I was very drowning at the beginning. I had lost my job. I didn't know what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. I didn't know if I was going to have to move out of my home, move back home. You know, I really didn't know what was going on. And I would just constantly draw and constantly paint. And a lot of those paintings and drawings that I did during that time, I've been able to sustain my life without having to go back to that 9 to 5. So it was there, and I didn't know. And it was because it was such limited representation. And that's one of the reasons why I love Star Trek, because that when it clicks, when you see it there, when you see Avery Brooks on his on JR's default pick, it just makes a complete difference.
Yeah.
It just complete, you don't even think. And I was like, you know what? That's the power of art in itself. You can see a picture and you don't have to say nothing. You don't have to even blink your eye. Like you can have a conversation with 4, 5, 6, 7 different people, and they'll all have different views and different individualities based upon that one image. And if it's positive, it will literally be 7, 8, 9 different positive viewpoints. And I'm like, wow, that's the power of art, is the ability to change without even speaking.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to let people know that I think I've gotten good enough that if you want to put a question into the chat, I could read it, or you can pose the question yourself. So I'm getting even more comfortable in what I'm doing. So I have a question for you both related to the art and creating the art. And it's kind of a fairly standard question, I think. Take us through a day in the life of creating a project. And let's pretend it's a new project that you're brainstorming about it. So it's kind of also about where do the ideas come from, and also what sort of inspirations have you taken from, now this is going to be like a 20-minute answer, but what kind of inspirations do you take from other artists in the world or other media?
For inspiration,
Thanks, JR.
At the Art Institute, we had the like special designers, like a upperclassman type of room that these designers would work in, and they had posters everywhere. And I thought that that's what artists need, is to see art constantly. You need constant stimulation. At least I do. I convinced my boss at the Art Institute if I could work from home, and she said, "Well, you better get some work done." It was because I had a TV on. I like commercials, and so I get ideas from commercials. I get ideas from billboards. The 3 cars that you showed, the inspiration are movie posters. I really love movie posters. So the job I have now at the sign shop is just typesetting. I'm a glorified typesetter. I really didn't do things artsy until last year, and it was diving into it. What do I want the end result to be? And then you start working away at that. I like stories, so when you're looking at some of my the newest art, there's a story involved there. Justen said like he's a rapper. I want to kind of dive into a little bit of writing myself. So on the 7th rule page, when I did the Nog poster, it was, what is that picture telling a story of? And then also allow the audience to have their own story as well. It was quite fun to make. And speaking of Nog, when he's talking to Captain Sisko in his office, and he said he didn't want to be like his father. In Detroit, everyone is working at the big 3. And I didn't want to be one of those people that just worked at the automobile factory. And I had that conversation with my dad not shortly after seeing that episode, was I want to do design, and we always think of starving artists, and I didn't want to starve, so what do we have to do? The nurturing at the time wasn't there, so like, where do you find the motivation? And it's really tough to dig within. You talk about the day, your daily life, is to wake up, I'm going to design. What time is it? I'm going to design every single day. And whether it happens or not, you just keep going.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm a just pick that right up. Consistency is inspiration. Seeing, especially other artists, that's my inspiration. So like immediately when I saw who was coming up on the panels and such, this is from Friday nights, and this is wonderful. So I can eat this up all day, and this will recharge my batteries, and then I would be like, man, what kind of comic books can I do? Like, like who's this and who's that, and then my brain starts to bubble and pop. Of course, Star Trek is inspiration, not so much so for the comfort zone, or not just that, but also what is constantly said. You can leave it on in the background, and then you'll hear something deep, and you'll be like, hey, what's that going on? And then you'll have a little 10-minute little Picard speech, something like that, and then you can go back to what you're doing. So for me, it's not necessarily a constant amount of stimuli. I actually need a sacred space. So that's one of the reasons why I play music, because for me, it just sets a tone. As I'm able to just ride on that vibration. I breathe, I think about what this music is making me feel like, and that happiness that I'm looking for is already within me. And so is the creation, and so is the art. So if I am vibing in the correct mode and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do on a consistent basis, the art is just going to come out. So even yesterday during the event, like it's always commonly said, like Justen is always moving. When you see him in these Zoom talks, it's because I love y'all, and that love helps me create other art pieces. So I'm moving to another piece of art. I'm moving to another piece of creation that I may have been stalled in, that in my mind I said, you know what, this is some crap. I actually can't draw. I actually can't do what I'm doing. I don't know what this is. And then once I start recognizing this is a low vibe, this is not where I'm supposed to be at. I am an artist, I am a poet, I am a representation of the Federation in present times. And then it's just like, bam, I'm back in it. And it's not that easy. It took a long time. I didn't ask for permission. I asked for permission from my parents so many times to be like, I want to do something different. I just don't want to be here and then go to work. And they're like, well, just, pray on it and think about it, but go to work, and put the work in. And I didn't understand at the time. I was just thinking like, they just want me to be a slave like them, honestly. And I had to understand that I'm not the first slave. So I need to own up to the work I have to put in as a Black man, because I can't just go out and live free. I need to actually wrangle myself in, find out what's inside of me first. And I can do that in those situations, and more safely in a situation where working with a Fortune 500 company, going to school first, playing in athletes, or focusing on academia, and then going into art, or then going into creation, because it's not easy, and it's not necessarily always meant for us, but it's also something that we have to constantly put forth and put out there. Like I had to really just start becoming an artist. I couldn't let my parents say, hey, it's time for you. Oh, I think it's good for you now. Once they saw me in a gallery, once they saw me having people come to my show, then they was like, my son is an artist. But they always knew that, but it was just in them to be like, hey, please go to work and please get a paycheck first. Yeah.
I told a friend of
leads
mine.
Sorry. Go ahead, JR.
That we spent too much time looking for art jobs, not being artists. And so this is somebody I went to school with in Pittsburgh. And when we graduated, we just kind of like, you fill out application, you go to these interviews, and you feel defeated. Like you're not finding a job. After 2 years of looking for an art job, I said to him, we could have been artists. We just could have just been doing things for 2 years as opposed to looking to do things. Which changed my perspective. You figure like 10 years later, I'm like, I don't like talking about permission. I don't need your permission to create.
Right.
Just do it and share it.
So we have a question from the chat. Has anyone told you that your art making inspired them to make art?
About a month ago was the first time, you figure in a baker's dozen years, that I actually heard that from somebody. It was on Twitter when I made the one of those posters I tweeted, the Cisco one to Ira and Robert, and the Stacey Abrams one. But someone on Twitter said, "This is so inspirational, I'm going to do something." And it's so touching to hear that for the first time in your life 2 weeks ago. When I work for the sign company, you just do real estate stuff and you see it out in the world, like, oh, I did that banner. But does that really inspire anybody to create? It was quite moving for someone to say, I see this, thank you, I'm going to do this now. I'm like, oh, thanks. Real quick, one of my inspirations is Michael Okuda as a graphic designer. And when I got to meet him, it was the Star Trek tour. I had tweeted a cover of the technical manual, and the Star Trek tour said, hey, he's going to be here, he should sign it. I was like, cool, dope. How far are you away? So we get there, and you try not to fanboy out. And you're just talking to Michael Okuda. He's like standing right next to you. And I got to tell him that, as a graphic designer, I was inspired to do things similar to what he was doing. And I used to design our college event posters with the labels of enterprise. So they were easy reads. People could walk over to it, read the little label, they knew what was happening. I was like, I'm converting people to Star Trek. I love it. Through design.
That's awesome. And he signed the book.
He did. He signed the book. I think Denise signed it as well. we got to take a picture in the captain's chair at the tour.
Nice.
So he said everybody can sit in the chair. So I walked over to him politely and I said, I didn't come here to sit in the chair. I came here to meet you. And he's like, oh. I said, would you mind taking a picture with me in the captain's chair? He said, sure. Let's wait for Denise to get done with that conversation. And I'm like, what? Denise too? Like, yes. So I have a photograph. There's me and both of the Akutas on either side of me in that picture.
That's awesome. Justen, so the same question for you. I mean, it's been a little bit since I asked it, but it's like, has anyone kind of said, you inspired me to make my art?
Yeah, the best version is my niece. I came back home and it was this little canvas and it was all done and it was nice. I was like, who did this? And she's like, oh, I just did this. And then while she said that, she was baking a cake. And I was like, you cooking now? Like, what's, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, wow. Like, you know, she said that, you know, me doing my thing made her want to be doing her thing. And she said she always wanted to do a YouTube channel where she was, you know, cooking and, you know, making little recipes and stuff, you know? So I was like, okay, all right, girl, you know, do your thing. I love that. And especially other artists, you know, one of the best things about at least Raleigh, there's a strong art community. So when you start to support local arts, and you start to support each other, buying each other's books, coming to each other's shows, that right there is like a great, awesome chance to inspire each other. Because you know what you need as an artist. You know what it feels like when someone comments on your pic or likes something or rehashes or reposts something that you put out there. So if you do that for someone else, it's like this constant flow of inspiration. So it just kind of goes back to the consistency thing. So typically the folks that have told me they were inspired by me, it was always based on my consistency. They would say, hey, you're always doing something. I always see a show, I always see another pic, I always see this. And they're like, well, if he doing X, Y, Z, then I can definitely do A or B. You know, it's been 5 years, so let me go ahead and do C, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a wonderful part, because then, like I said, it goes back to, it doesn't belong to me. If I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, they wouldn't have saw that picture, they wouldn't have been inspired, and then they wouldn't have created the art that they were supposed to make. So that's usually why I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to hear that.
Awesome. I know. I think I should probably take people on a tour of your respective websites now, because we don't have super long. So
Yeah.
I'm going to try something challenging. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. I tested this earlier and I was eventually successful. But I'm going to share this desktop. So you're going to see yourself for a moment, I think.
Thank you for the warning.
Yeah. Oops. I don't know what you're seeing. Uh-oh.
Seeing your desktop, I see a calculator.
That's exactly what I didn't want to do.
Superbly neat desktop.
Yeah. Yeah. Melissa said, hey, they're going to be recording, so make sure you don't show your desktop. Okay. So let me do that. So here we are.
Well, I'm unmuting to ooh and ah.
So, JR, I think you could take us through this and I'll scroll down as we go. This is Black Heroes Movement. I showed the cards earlier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My core elements is literacy, legacy, heroism, and perception. That is my nephew, and we did a photo shoot. So when we talk about representation, is either we have to sit and wait for someone to make it, or we make it ourselves. And there are a lot of people out there who are making things themselves. So we went out, took some pictures, and he's pretty good at modeling. He just struck a pose. And as a designer, I'm like, that's the poster. I'm lying on the ground taking this picture, and then I photoshopped in the energy. He's holding on to a pin because I didn't want young black men with guns.
Right.
So there's energy coming out of the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, I told him. And that was our story for the rest of the photo shoot.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We went out
That's great.
yesterday and with the Doctor Who sonic screwdriver. So that was fun.
That's very cool. I want to, if you don't mind, go to the gift shop here
Yeah.
so people can get an idea of what they could get. And I will say, and I don't see this on the site, but I have seen Sirach Lofton wearing an Afronaut shirt.
Top left.
Was that the show? Oh, it is. Okay. His was, I think, black and white. So there it is. Okay, cool.
The black and white ones are exclusive. There's only
Oh,
6 people who have them.
okay. Well, then
Hey, hey.
Limited series. Yeah.
that's cool. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll down here a bit. Here we have
I don't
the
even have a black
cards.
and white one. This is blue.
And so all of your items, they can just go to the site and you will send out stuff.
Yeah. There's the
High
military
quality.
banners. There's historical figures.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Uh,
So I saw the military banners. I had a question about that. Could you tell us
Mhm.
about those and which ones you're doing? And I have to find it so I can bring them up.
I designed 3 different types, 3 different templates. Historically, we don't have that many military national figures that are African American or Black. That not too many holidays, even in the Black community. Even when you think about soldiers coming home from a battle. There's one bit of his history. There's a
Mhm.
photograph of a young Black man who was hung. I think it's in the early 50s or late 40s, hanging in a tree, and he's wearing a military uniform.
Hmm.
There's people in our families who just don't get the honor and attention for having served this country. I bought a book when I was in New York at the Star Trek tour. We went to the Fort Ticonderoga, I think it is, and the curator of the museum just so happened to be with the fort, walking next to me, asking me how I was enjoying myself. I was telling her about the project. She was telling me about some Black historical figures in the late 1600s. And then I ended up buying a book about colonial soldiers from the late 1600s to the Civil War. We've done a lot for and within this country, and we know little. So I wanted to honor our Black soldiers with military banners. Pop them outside your house, put them in your yard.
Awesome. Okay, let me now try to more smoothly share. Okay, there we go. So Just Genius Art. Here we
Yeah.
are on the landing screen. And yours, as I recall, it goes down a bit. So I'm going to scroll down, I think, or maybe I was thinking of a different page.
Yeah. So I have a little gallery and you can kind of scroll right
Yeah.
into the about section.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do that. So I'll go into, whoops. How do I get? Thank you.
Love
Look at
it,
all this
love it,
stuff.
love it.
And contact. There he is. If you want to contact him.
Yeah, that's the best.
And I
place.
want to get to products, and I think there we go. I think gallery is what I was looking for. So when you're sharing your screen, there's an annoying little bar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can't get past the bar.
There we
try,
go. That's
there you go. Good job.
well, I'm trying to
Is
get
that
the
your
shop.
brother? Is that your brother, Justin? With you in that picture?
Which one?
That one when he's holding up the artwork there.
That's my brother from another mother. That's one of my
Oh,
college
okay.
roommates from St. Augustine's College. He's actually an ex-vet as well.
Oh, did you go to
He's
St.
been
Augustine?
working. Say it again.
You went to St. Augustine?
Of course, yeah. I
All
graduated
right,
in
all right.
2011 with
Okay.
a business administration degree.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, so that's just different times, different periods of me taking pictures. Above him is a mural that I did for the W.D. Hill Recreational Center. It was a landmark ceremony to mark the Algonquin Tennis Center. And you had Arthur Ashe play there. You had Athena Gibson play there.
Oh, wow.
Du Bois spoke about how important tennis was for Black folks in terms of celebrating and furthering that statue in life. Next to it is another mural that I did right behind St. Augustine's. There was Section 8 housing when I was there, and we were told point blank period, they're going to rob you because they're your college students. And so this is an all Black neighborhood, and this is mostly all Black college and university, and they're basically telling us our own people are going to harm us because we're more educated. Nothing ever happened to me in that neighborhood or anything, but it was definitely rough. And a lot of Raleigh has been gentrified. Literally, people that have been living there post-slavery, some of the first freemen communities like the Oakland community area, just completely gentrified. 90% of the people that lived there during the 50s, 60s, 70s, who were either descendants from war veterans that came back from World War II and started their community, they just got slowly pushed out. Their mortgages went from $200 to $1,800, like New York studio apartment prices. And it's just like nobody in Raleigh is making that much money. So they got pushed out, and this neighborhood was about to happen. And a lot of St. Augustine's alumni was able to come to that community. They had a housing authority there. They talked to them. They made a program to where they moved the Section 8 residents out, but then moved them right back into all new buildings, all new complexes, new daycare centers, new playgrounds. And they asked me if I would do a mural, and I did a paint by numbers mural because I wanted everybody to come and be a part of it because it was their community. So they were all able to just splash some paint on it and help me finish it.
So I did a test earlier about screen sharing, and apparently I didn't learn as well as I had hoped. But one of the things that came out of that was a question from my wife, Melissa. She said she really liked the Kirk is a Jerk artwork, and she wanted to learn more about it from you.
Wonderful. So that's a perfect example of doing what you are supposed to be doing, or in a sense, doing what inspires you. So that idea came from our ship's mini marathon that we had with the Sci-Fi Sisters at the beginning of the year. So we had a New Year's marathon of TOS, the animated series. And this was just one of the funny scenes that was just a mashup of the collection of the day. And I immediately saw that and was like, yo, that would be a pretty cool shirt because it's kind of like an inside joke. You know, we would know what it kind of is, but other folks from TOS might recognize what that is. And you often don't see Kirk is a jerk. Typically, people are putting him on a pedestal, which he deserves. And, you know, but it was funny because it just, every time I see it, I immediately think about there was this like a love serum that made him really protective over Spock in a romantic way. And Yeoman came up and touched Spock, and he turned around real quick. And I just remember, like, it was just a culmination of the memories and the fun and the love that we had that day. And so I was like, you know what, even if it doesn't get sold or whatever, this is more for me. So a lot of times I have art projects or art pieces that I make just for me. I can care less if it's going to be sold. I can care less if someone else appreciates it. It just reminds me of where I was at a particular time. And so I love scrolling my website. I love saying my website, and then on my website I get a little token, kind of like a little Easter egg that I put for myself.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop the screen share now, and I'm hoping that your websites and social media will be either posted in the chat or posted on the holder as well.
Yeah, I can post my website right now.
And so I've stopped the screen share. I think I did that right. And let me look at the chat because I wasn't able to see it while I was sharing. So there's a question about the Afronaut shirt, and it's the question is, so a seventh person can't have one?
Sure they can.
I know who that question is from. I don't even have to look in the chat.
Yes, that's right.
I was right.
Uh,
Oh God, I was right.
Yes. Okay, so Just Genius Art, that's posted out there. And then I have it right here. Let me just see. No. Oh, I thought I did. JR, would you please say your website's URL? I think it's fairly straightforward. I just don't want to mess it up.
The Black Heroes Movement
Yeah,
.world.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
.world.
I didn't do a .com because there are heroes around the world.
I like it.
Yeah.
I celebrate Black History Month 3 times, kind of doubly in February for the United States and Canada, and I believe it's October or November for the UK. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, we've got Black folks all around the world doing.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know we had Black History Month all around the world.
Yeah, there are all sorts of celebrations going on that we don't know about. Sometimes I think the United States is a little bit isolated.
Yeah.
In their knowledge about other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. I was
Yeah.
always in shock when I was overseas and someone would point at me. I was always like, oh, they're about to call me black. And they say, American, you're an American. And I'm like, hey, hold on now. Like, it's always kind of like, you don't get that in your own country a lot, to them to just be like, you're automatically a citizen. You always got to kind of be like, oh, but to have it put in your face, I was like, okay, I really do need to travel more because it's a completely different amount of perspectives all around the world that you can learn about.
Speaking around the world, on my website, there's a convention page where there's Black comic book conventions.
Oh,
And
cool.
I thought I was doing something novel. I was like, oh, Pittsburgh will have the first one. The first one was in Chicago in the 1990s. So there's about 14 of them in this country, the United States. And then you have 3 in Africa, Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. Australia has a Black comic book convention. The UK had one. Barbados has a very large cosplay convention. So when I hit the lottery, we're all going.
Hey.
A business write-off. We're all hopping on the plane going to Barbados.
Cosplay in Barbados. Okay, that's
They are.
That's sexy.
sounds
Oh,
good.
man.
One of the artists that was on our writers panel yesterday does a Black comic book festival in Jersey called Kim Fest.
Saeed.
And then he's a yes, and I see he's a big promoter for STEM projects also. And then there's I don't know if you heard of the Black Comic Fest here at BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music. They kind of just got started, but they do a really good one. But I wanted to reiterate your point about when you're talking about Black military. I don't know if you got to catch the video that we showed earlier, the salute to Black military first. Yeah, so I was thinking about you when you were talking because a lot of people know of the Tuskegee Airmen and folks like that, but some of the people that we had showed on the Black military first are not often known, like the Golden 13, the first 13 Black officers to be commissioned in the Navy, and then we brought it up to now where it was a lot of Black men and women that achieved like the first to do something when it comes to the military. Like we had the first Black woman to be a 4-star admiral in the Navy and all kind of stuff like that. So I'll share that with you because I can see that you like the military history too. So I'll definitely share that video with you because I think that card that you did, I think I would like something like that for the Golden 13, because I have their book. My dad was the one who told me that story, because he being in the Navy at that time wasn't really no black officers, and so he loved Fleet Week. And one of the reasons why he loved Fleet Week was he just loved seeing the black officers walking around. And my dad had this way, young men just love to talk with him. So he could pull some officers over to the side and start telling them how proud he is to see them. And they would just sit there and go on and on and on and on. I couldn't get a picture of nothing, but you know, but it's like he just loves to talk to the black officers, and they love to talk to my dad. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna definitely have you do something. Um, his brother would like that for the Golden 13.
That's
That
great.
little card that you did, that you just showed.
Yeah.
Yes, he would like that.
My
So,
next series of cards is going to be Bessie Coleman, the Brown Condor, and one of the Tuskegee Airmen.
All right now.
Nice.
That's awesome. Darlena, Yvette, how much time do we have?
Oh, well, the last was the charity that we were just going to talk about, the coat drive.
Because
So,
I
and then
okay, so
after
I
that,
have
the party's at 8.
okay, because I have a couple more questions. Well, actually,
Yeah, go ahead.
I am hoping JR might have a question for Justin and vice versa.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, real quick, for your dad, does he know about the USS Mason?
Yes, yes, I had that book too, because he told me that story.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, my dad. Oh, I'm like the only one in the family that will listen to dad's stories. So yes,
Very good.
thank you. Yes, I'll be getting that too.
I don't have it, so put it in the chat. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
I think it was like during World War II, was it?
Mhm.
One of the few Navy vessels that had a all-black crew.
Oh
So
no, I never heard this.
I had heard a conservative radio host about 5 years ago said black people did not fight in World War II. And I thought, like, why are you telling people this? So I just started looking up a lot of historical things 5 years ago.
I don't
And
think people
with
know
this,
that Google exists.
Wow.
it was very disheartening. Like you're saying actively that we didn't do anything. But my question to Justin, that you kind of touched base on it, was about inspiration, and I was thinking about music. What music makes you work the fastest?
I like versatility, so I'm always, that's why you see me drawing with a pencil, then you see me painting, and then you see me working on something 3D. I notice abstract, it's pretty funky jazz, you know what I mean? And like bossa nova music. I don't know why. Something about just that
Bossa
flavor.
nova.
Just I think it's something about the dancing for painting and
Yeah.
making me move. When I'm drawing, it's usually hip hop. Yeah, so when I'm drawing with a pencil, especially if I'm doing anything letter based, because I started with hip hop, I started listening to Wu-Tang Clan and Nas, and that's why I learned to form in terms of consistency, because I was just like, oh man, that new Nas is out, so I would literally draw his name while I'm listening to his music. And then so now I'm noticing, even if I'm drawing like Chadwick Boseman, I'm listening to hip hop, and I'm typically listening to hip hop from my era, which is like that 92 to 208 area.
Right.
Yeah.
I have mood music. If there's a deadline, I put on no words, some type of action movie score, and I just knock it out.
I hear you. I might get attached to a particular soundtrack. So I've literally, like maybe 2 weeks ago, I was literally stuck with the Aliens Marine Escape soundtrack when all the xenomorphs started coming off the wall.
Yeah.
When I was finishing a project, because I just needed that.
Right.
I'm sitting over here drawing and making my coffee and stuff like that. And I'm running around my little studio. So yeah, I hear you on that one.
Yeah.
I guess my turn, my question, right?
Uh-huh.
Art is about in a lot of ways, legacy, what you are leaving behind. And I think I even remember you saying that maybe, you know, what you left behind was a pretty powerful episode for you. So what legacy do you want with the Black superheroes movement?
The Black Heroes movement.
Excuse me. Yes.
Okay. I gave that a lot of thought recently. Education. We talk about inclusivity and equality, but if you don't even know that we exist or actively write us out of history, you want people to walk away knowing that we were present and doing it by art. Some people say, well, it's not about race when you're making a character, but then if we look at material from that genre and there is no representation there, then what is it about? We're not invisible. You know, we're present.
For sure. About the
JR.
music. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, well, just we have a question from the chat. JR, the question is, which action movie scores?
I played the video game Halo. And it was 2001 when I was released, and they were doing something very big and orchestral for a video game. Halo 1, 2, and 3. You put those on and ask me to do something, it's about to get done.
I'm going to write that down.
Right.
The
You
flood? Oh my God. Come on
wood in the
now.
backyard, say, JR, build me a shed. You put Halo on.
The
it's about to
arbiter?
start.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there. For me, I got hit with it's something about 80s movies. So the beginning of Total Recall, when RoboCop is cruising through Detroit, those soundtracks, they'll make me finish something real quick.
I listened to RoboCop the other day, actually.
Mm.
I like Back to the Future.
Yes.
So here's a fairly standard question for both of you. What would your current self say to your young, just starting off self that might have saved them a little bit of extra work or pain in getting to where you are now? In other words, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
Confidence. Confidence and fear, because you're not going to take a step if you don't get over that hurdle. And confidence and fear, the hurdle is quite small. It's as big as a shoebox. You can step over that. It's not a wall that you have to climb. Yeah, you've got to move. You can't stand still.
I would say to my younger self to not think as much, do more. I was constantly in my head. I was constantly writing negative scripts all the time. Before I even got somewhere, I was saying, this person is going to say they're not going to like it, they're not going to want it, they're not going to buy it. Before I even talk to my parents, they're not going to hear me, they're going to think I wasted my college, they weren't even thinking that way, but I was constantly writing it. So if I was spending that time just drawing and painting, I will probably have more art and be somewhat closer to my goals. It's a little freaky. I definitely go with Star Trek when it comes to not messing with the timeline, because there's so many failures that I've had that makes me afraid now that, like, I don't want to say nothing to that guy. He needs to mess up all of those times, because if it's too smooth, I don't think I will even be here talking to you right now. I might be at my job because I made enough money from art, or I, something put me in a different place than I am now. So I definitely would say do more, because that's something to where I can still mess up. I can probably still have my same experiences, but instead of just showing up with just myself and a cell phone, I could have showed up with a poem and 2 pieces of art and had something to talk about. and there's no telling who that could have saw or who would have heard that, and that could have took me somewhere else.
Great. I think we have done some good work here today.
Always, brother.
Yeah. Thank you both for
Thank you, man.
sharing your journey and your art